Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, I have got a new saw, and it's so funny how these just keep showing up, isn't it? They had another sale, and I want to go at this video from a different perspective, a perspective of me from 10 years ago when I was just starting out with this land, with this property, doing some firewood, and all I had was a junky little 350 Husqvarna that the previous owner had left on the property here, and it was my only saw, and there was a time when the cylinder blew up, and I couldn't afford a new saw, so I ended up finding a cheap online cylinder, replaced the cylinder on it, and kept on going. Eventually that one blew up, and I did have to get a backup saw, which was in the tune of a 455 Rancher. The 455 Rancher was expensive back then. They're even more expensive now. So for 150 bucks, I think is about what I paid for this when they were on sale. They typically go for about 250 bucks, so I mean, I got a really good deal, but 455 is going away. They're about 550 bucks, so you can get this one for half the price of a 455, and this one's going to be 70 cc's. This is a G372, old school. OE. We're going to open it up, unbox it, see what's all in the box, and then fire it up and get some impressions and kind of be comparing it to like a 545 or a 455 Husqvarna, something that's a smaller size that's kind of comparable. So let's get after it. Welcome to Man Time. Yeah, so if you've never ordered anything from farmertec or Holzfforma, when you do, you've got the option there to put your email in and get offers sent to you, and that's how I end up getting a lot of these saw deals, figuring out that they're having the sales or whatever from those emails. And this was like a pre-Chinese New Year, lunar holiday type of sale. And if you don't know what that is, in China, they've got like a month-long, maybe not a month. I think it may have been a month at one time, but now it's like 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks of February, they've got their New Year's holiday. So they are pretty well shut down. So this one was ordered just before that, and I didn't think it had shipped. But the shipping from, if you go and pick the the saw that's on sale that's coming from overseas, the lead time on it is 35 to 45 days. So you can expect to spend a month and a half going, where the heck is my chainsaw? just a heads up there. Even I've ordered them before and gone through that same thing, and I don't know, this time around there was no tracking number either. So I mean, that's one thing. Us normal consumers are used to seeing a tracking number and being like, oh yeah, it's here, Not this one. This one was a mystery until it arrived at my door. All of a sudden it was like no tracking 30 days into it, and I was like, well, maybe it's not going to ship until after their New Year, but it ended up shipping. So let's see what we got here. But yeah, if I was going from a junky 350, and when I say junky, I mean like used. It's on its, let's see here, since I've owned it, I think it still had the stock cylinder when I got it, but then I put an aftermarket one on there, and then, at first I think I put an aftermarket piston, and then that completely blew and destroyed the head, and then I put an aftermarket jug and piston, and then that blew, and then I went with OEM and put that back on there. But I think it still needs crank seals after all that. But going from that to this is kind of what I'm going to be comparing it to. So let's grab a scrunch and just kind of open up a few things, take a look at the spark plug, take a look at the interior, get a nice close-up view of it here, and see if this isn't something that might be worthwhile, at least from that perspective. Going from you know, a really junky saw, not being able to really afford or want to afford a $550, you know, minor upgrade, you can actually spend half the price and get something that's going to be kind of a big upgrade from 50 going all the way up to 70 cc. So let's get in here and take a look at it. Yeah, so just real quick, first impressions. Yeah, I mean, it seems really nice and solid. Really lightweight. I mean, not often you get a saw, you know, dry, where you can kind of feel the dry weight of it. But yeah, handle, really solid. Springs seem good. It's oiled. I'm seeing some sealant on the case gasket there. 3/8/7 on the rim sprocket, which is nice. Yeah, brake works. Brake is sticking against the top cover there. But, I mean, everything, just looking at it, is pretty nice. You know, machining marks on the clutch. That darker gray on the cylinder with a decomp there. On this side of it, I mean, this all, you know, feels like Husqvarna plastic, of course. And they've even decided, you know, they're going to put their Holzfforma tag on the cases there. Just giving a look down in there. Look over here. Looks like Cosmoline and sealer on there. Got a little bit of paint chipping around the cap, but overall, put the decomp in. Yeah, that's what the decomp in. Decomp out. Not bad. Let's pull this top cover off and get a look down inside of here. Okay, it's got the big high flow air filter on there. Holy smokes, it's even got an NGK plug. Now this one has got the HLIC carb on it. Looks actually pretty nice down in here. I mean, so it's going to be a clone of the, you know, 372. Yeah, these throttle cables are not the greatest. They kind of get bound up. They've got that metal boot holder to the carb deal on there, but yeah, that's really interesting. NGK plug on there. I don't know if you can read that, but yeah, NGK BPMR7A. So that's the correct plug size and everything. But why they're using NGK, I'll never know. I mean, there's got to be cheaper, you know, junk knockoff ones that they could be using, and they decided to go with the NGK. All clean inside of there. Everything, you know, appears to be tight inside of here, and all the hoses, you know, are connected with a real, you know, duckbill one-way vent line coming out of there. And let's see about our carb settings. So the carb settings are going to be right here. Your high, so you've got your throttle, you know, this is your adjustment for where the butterfly sits. And I like to just kind of run it, you know, down until I see it start to open up that butterfly. And then you've got low speed is going to be the closest to the boot, or the closest to the engine. Let's see where we're sitting at there. If I can get in here. Half, 1, 1.5, 1 3/4. So let's go at 1 1/4, and we'll do the same on the high. We'll go in. There's half, 1. Oh, it's just out to 1. Half, 1. I guess we'll see where 1 turn gets us. Typically I like to start a little bit further out, but maybe they know something I don't know. So, but yeah, everything looks, pretty good in here. And if I was going from a old junky hand-me-down saw to this, I think I would be pretty happy right about now. You can see in here, you've got metal chain or bar adjustment here with the adjustment on the outside, the same as the clone one is going to have. So at this point, I think we'll just throw some fuel in it and fire it up and see how it sounds. Alright, I went ahead and put some gas in it, but before we do that, let's see what we got in our little goodie bag here. This is let's see, we've got a scrunch in there, and an Allen key, and, oh, look at there, we got some big West Coast dogs. I don't live on the West Coast, so I won't be putting those on there, but they're there if you want them. And toolkit, very nice. How were these in here? And am I going to be able to get them back? Yep. Alright, let's fire it up. Alright, well, if you're like me and you just threw away the instructions, you can refer back to this video. Let's see here. We've got stop, on and off. Now, these switches are known to be, less than reliable right here. But on is out, and then you've got a choke right there, which also should set half throttle. So we should just be able to start going. You've also got a decomp right here on the side. That's nice when you're drop starting it, especially when you're, trying to push fuel through it for the first time. Now, I'm going to heat cycle this like I would a normal, new build or a new saw. And what that is basically start it up, let it idle for about 5 minutes, tune it in so it's going to stay running. Sometimes they have some trouble on that first one. But then, just let it cool back down to atmosphere, and then you can fire it back up again. I do 3 heat cycles. First heat cycle is idle, and then maybe some blips just to kind of keep it running, getting it tuned in where it'll stay running. Second one is going to be blips up to half throttle, and just kind of on and off, half throttle for another 5 minutes, let it cool all the way down. Third one is revs all the way up to max, making sure you've got enough fuel up there. We're at 4 strokes. And we'll just go through kind of all 3 of those heat cycles with this new saw. If it decides it wants to run, that is. Make sure the choke is on. I mean, and this could be the situation, you have right out of the gate, with one of these saws. This one does not look like it was pre-ran at the factory. And, yeah, it also doesn't look like it looks like the choke is hanging up on the inside of this boot right here. So it wasn't fully choking, and it's not coming off a choke when it does fully seat in there. So what I'm talking about is right here. A little hard to see, but the choke is not fully sealing right there without some additional kind of force being applied, and then it kind of hangs on the lip in there. But let's try it again. Oh, there we go. Alright, so yeah, see now the choke is staying on. I'm having to push down on the inside of this boot to get the choke to come off, and there we go. Alright. So it looks like they had it kind of opened up on the low for a reason. We will go back there and give it another crack. Got another half a turn. Open on low. and then another little bit on high as well. Well, I guess we'll try a little more choke. Alright, well, this is a good example of kind of what you can expect with these clone saws. So right out of the gate, we have got we've got a problem, right? This choke, I thought it was going to self-clearance. It's not. So the first thing you're going to need to do is actually take off your top cover here, which is just 1, 2, 3 screws. But you can't run it, you know, you don't want to run it with it not fully functional. You know. So, you've got 2 Allens down in here. You can get to both of those, you know, fairly easily right here. I think they're going to be a 3, but they might be a 4. They are a 3, and they weren't tight. So that's one other thing to note there. I was actually, so we're on the first cool down from the first run, you know, in that first heat cycle. And I was going to go through here and just double check bolt tightness. That is something you're going to want to do with one of these saws. And in this instance, you know, of course, you're going to have to because something isn't working properly. So these 2 screws, they go all the way through and they screw into this piece here. It's almost impossible to get just this piece out. It's almost easier, you know, just to get the carb out. But yeah, let's see if we can just fully remove these 2 screws. That's probably going to be our best bet to being able to just get this plastic piece off of here. So it's held on. There's a little rubber bit that goes across there, and then this choke also. Let's see, I think I need a pair of needle nose to get that out of there. Sometimes you can get it with a screwdriver, but it's actually a whole lot. Well, I guess we can get it with a screwdriver this time around. And see, there's little hooks on this piece that hook in to this rubber piece. So you got to kind of just push it through until it comes out on one side, and then same on the other side. Push this rubber bit through there like that. Okay, so where it's hitting is right here, and you can see it's already, it looks like somebody, well, I was actually down in here digging, you know, with a screwdriver trying to clearance it. So yeah, you can just, I guess in this case, grab a knife and start working the area where it's binding up down, which is right here. Yeah, this is actually probably a good thing to take it out of the saw. And I'm going to be working this whole area back here until we think we've got enough to allow that choke to open. Alright, I think that's probably going to do it. Let's hope. So I just took and, you know, dug out some plastic in there with a razor blade. So let's try that. And, well, while we're in here, we might as well just kind of carry the rework around, getting off some of this flashing, I guess you could call it, from the plastic mold, and cleaning it up a little bit. Getting all the little plastic bits out of there. And hopefully this video is helpful for you and informative. If it is, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe button down there. Yeah, see, it's not a problem. It's not a problem with the butterfly or the carb, you know, or the linkage here. This is going in and out really nice. I could visibly see it was just binding on that edge right there. So let's get this back in here and try it again. There we go. Yeah, it's got two little recesses in that rubber spot there, so. And then we'll have to get this back in here also. Yeah, this is a little rubber boot that keeps the chips from coming through. Get that back in here. There we go. That's not a very good fit. I don't know that that was in there to begin with. But let's get this all hooked back up and see what we're looking like. Yeah, that is not a good fit. Yeah, it may have just been resting against there like that, because that does not look like it was meant to go through there like that. So. All right. Should I actually get these tightened up this time around? Yeah, you can actually give these a little bit of torque because they're going into metal. If this was the OEM one, you wouldn't want to because it's got a plastic piece right there. So let's get our choke lever hooked back up here. Alright, now what do we got? Closed, open, closed, open. Moving freely. Good. Alright, next I want to check just some of the other bolts, muffler bolts being the main one here. Making sure, yeah, that wasn't tight. That wasn't tight. And just basically all of the bolts that you can get a wrench on here. These originally had a 3/16, I think, Allen head from the factory, but on this one it's going to be a 4mm. So, but just check your head bolts. Check things like this carb boot clamp, stuff like that, just to make sure everything is snugged down. You know, the first heat cycle, this is pretty much what you want to do on any, even a built saw or, you know, whatever. People that build saws are going to tell you the same thing. After the first heat cycle, go over and, you know, just double check. Because things heat up, things cool down, and then you just want to double check stuff. So, HLIC. Seems to be working okay. Double check these in the front. Yeah. They just needed a little snug. Now this one here, that one's good and tight. Check, yeah, that one was not tight as it probably could have been. But yeah, so far not seeing any real red flags. Of course, the first heat cycle, you know, not much to report yet, but going forward, I'll be running this on the channel and reporting anything that I see. So, yeah, these plastic self-tappers, you just never know with those. So, okay, we found a couple loose ones. Carb bolts were slightly loose. muffler bolts slightly loose, but we're cooling back down to atmosphere, and we'll be able to start up and do our second heat cycle, now with a working choke. Okay, top cover back on, and we should be good to go. Okay, time for the second heat cycle. Go ahead and turn it to on. Let's just pop it with the choke real quick. It's completely cooled down to atmosphere at this point. Sometimes it likes a little splash of gas. Yeah, nice. Yeah, the decomp did not pop out on that one. Alright, man, we are completely cooled back down to atmosphere. And I know there's probably nothing about this in the manual, and I know a lot of people will just fire up their saw and go to running it, but I mean, if you want your saw to run right, this is the break-in period for, you know, a new piston, new rings, new jug. I used to race two-strokes and rebuild the engines, and this was the process I went through. So if you want my opinion, this is the correct way to break in your new two-stroke. So there you go. But we're on our third heat cycle now. We'll go ahead and take it off of stop, put in our decomp. We're completely cooled back down to atmosphere, and on this one, you want about 60 seconds, let it warm up, and then you can start blipping the throttle and running it all the way to full throttle. And once it's warmed up here, I'll kick the camera back on and let you hear it full throttle, and then we'll adjust it, and maybe we'll put the tack on it and see where we're at. Yeah, likes choke from cold. There was the high. 14.1. Alright, man, that was the G372 XP. This is a clone of the OE Husqvarna 372. And if I had this saw as a backup and I was just starting out homesteading, just got some land, just realizing like I've got a bunch of trees. Matter of fact, when second year after I owned this property, there was a huge drought where it was over 100 degrees for 90 days in a row. And I had a bunch of trees die. Red oaks, everything. Everything was dying, but mostly red oaks. And I had, I don't know, 8 or 10 that I needed to cut down, and I was going to process into firewood. And I did process into firewood and sell, you know, off the property here. What else are you going to do with a dead tree, right? If I had this saw as a backup saw, or even my primary saw, like I said, I had a 350 and then I got the 455. If I was back then, I would buy this saw and use it until it blew up or the coil failed or something else went wrong with it, and then switch over But a 70cc saw is really, really handy, and one that's cheap and you don't care about, and you just want to cut a couple cords of firewood out homesteading and on a shoestring budget like I was and still am. This saw is a great purchase. Again, I bought this with my own money. It was on sale at the time, so it was under 200 bucks. I think if you found one on Amazon or through another website, they're probably 300 or right around there. But for 300 bucks, I couldn't be happier with it. And I've got a lot of ported chainsaws, so I'm spoiled now with really fast revving, expensive machine work, port work, saws that are a lot of my time and effort has went into building the saws. So you can go back on my channel, check those out. Make sure to subscribe so you can find all of them. But man, if I had this saw back then, I would set my 455 down and run this thing until it crapped out or something happened to it, and then go to running my other saw, or even have this as the primary saw. You saw there we had some technical issues with the choke immediately sticking. Managed to work that out. I mean, you almost need to be a mechanic to purchase one of these saws. You definitely need a set of Allen T-handles and, a little bit of mechanical know-how for sure, because right off the bat there we're doing some maintenance work to it. But it runs great. I'm going to put it up against, I've got a OE Husqvarna 365. It's like the special. I'll just call it a 365 special because everybody knows that one. Basically, the same quad port designed cylinder. I'm going to be running that against this one. Stock form on that 365 and stock form on this one. I even put I redid it, went through that 365, put the base gasket back in it, made one for it, got a video on that. I think it's called How a Man Buys a New Chainsaw or something like that. Check that one out. I rebuilt and went through that entire saw, so I'm very versed in the saw at this point. And then I've also got a 365 that I put a big bore kit on, and I've got a lot of firewood to cut, so we'll be seeing this in the future, and I'm going to put it up against the different versions of this chassis, which is the 365, the 372, and then a big bore 372 that's ported up and like machine work all the way wide open. So you can see it from 65 to 71 to 77 and everywhere in between there. Anyways, that's going to do it for today on Man Time. Get out there, have you some man time too.